Welcome to Own the Season podcast. We will talk to industry insiders along with outdoor enthusiasts to help you own your season. Now let's join hosts Art and Michelle Helen with Brad Jones. Own the Season podcast is sponsored by Griffin Armament, the oldest privately owned silencer manufacturer in the United States. Go to griffinarmament.com to learn how you can get a silencer shipped to your door. Griffin Armament, engineered silence.
Hello and welcome to Own the Season podcast. I'm Michelle Helen, along with Art Helen and Brad Jones. And today with us we have Jana Waller-Bear from Skullbound Chronicles. Hi, Jana.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to some fellow Wisconsinites.
Yeah. How long have you not been in Wisconsin? When did you move?
I moved, about 15 years ago. Maybe 16 years now. I think it was 2009. I moved to Montana, lived in Montana for over a decade. And then my husband and I were long distance dating for about 3.5 years, and that got really old. He lived in Utah.
Okay.
And then when we got married 2 years ago, I moved to Utah. So I live now just south of Salt Lake City, but I still get back to Wisconsin, 2 or 3 times a year. I was there over the Deer Week and Thanksgiving this year, but I still call home Wisconsin for sure.
Yeah, good. Our both our daughters live out west. One's in Salt Lake or Mill Creek, and the other in Colorado. So they're both home. So it is nice to have them.
Absolutely. And then you also have an excuse to get out west a lot.
Oh yes, it's nice to. Not that we need an excuse, because we've always liked the West and gone out there. Usually we'd get out there once a year, but now we have a better excuse, I guess, if people feel we need one.
You have to get out for family and hunting. Got to plan both those things, you know.
It's been a long time since I've been out there hunting. I think the last time was actually just before I broke my back.
Yeah, 2017.
It was the last time I've been out there. Climbing the mountains just isn't what it used to be, and I'm hoping one of these days, I've got some stuff scheduled with the doctor to hopefully get this back straightened out and figured up, and then I can get out there and do a little more. But we've been out there, do a lot of photo work when I'm out there. So this year we came out in September and saw the oldest first, and then we went from there over to Salt Lake, and so we probably drove right by it because we went and saw the last park in Utah, the last national park, which was
which one did we just see? I'm blanking out on that
Canyon?
one. No, we saw we'd seen
Zion and Bryce and all the other ones. This one's on
which one's just north of Grand Escalante?
Oh, geez, I don't even know. I'm new here. I've been here 2 years. I still use the excuse I'm new here. And it's funny because we live just south of the airport, but it's just one humongous valley. You've got mountains on the one side, the lake on the other, and all these towns just merge together. A lot of people think Salt Lake is huge. It's not that big. It's Salt Lake in and of itself, because then you just get into all the other little towns. But I'm still using the excuse I'm new here because I haven't learned all the neighboring towns or all the units or the mountains or the parks yet.
Sure. Yeah, it was Capitol Reef.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Was the last one. So we had done the other, we did 2 on one trip and then another 2 on another trip. And for some reason, we totally missed Capitol Reef, which is not that far from the others. But I think that maybe the entrance was maybe on the other side of kind of where we had base camped, for that trip or something.
Which one was your favorite?
We kind of like Bryce.
Yeah.
Really just the geology there and the red
so
rock.
It feels like another planet.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it's also close to the state park at Kodachrome, which was actually really...
That's beautiful.
That's a beautiful little state park, too, that's
and then we kept going south and went through, all the BLM, which has, you're, driving through this BLM and, there's, an arch here, in the middle of nowhere and, a herd of sheep and other stuff, too, that's, not necessarily in a park.
Utah is very underrated. I feel like if you ask anybody from the Midwest about what Western states do you want to go to? They say Montana, Wyoming, Colorado. I think Idaho and Utah are so underrated. They're absolutely stunning, beautiful, awesome hunting. And Utah is so unique because it's got such different terrain. The northern part of Utah is so mountainous. It's just craggy, beautiful snow-capped mountains. I mean, I hunted over in the Uintas a couple years ago for mountain goat, and it felt like I was in Glacier National Park. It was just jaw-droppingly beautiful. And then you go down south, and you've got the arches and the deserts and the red rock, and it's just so diverse in its terrain, but really beautiful and big, beautiful, and you got to have a lot of time to cover it all. That's for sure.
Yeah, I totally agree. We fell in love with Wyoming like on our honeymoon trip. So now like 32 years ago. And so that's always like, for some reason that it's always felt like going home when we would go on a trip to Wyoming. We just fell in love with that state, and we've crisscrossed, back and forth across a lot of the state.
Sure.
And then it was quite a handful and then we'd dip over into Salt Lake because we'd go over and have a meeting at Hoyt and Easton, while we were, in Wyoming, and then like go across to, Antelope Island State Park. But really that had been the extent of visiting Utah, for me. And then quite a handful of years ago, we kind of did that normal trip, and then we extended it and we're like, let's just head south and see where we end up. And so then we just started driving south, and I think like I had my jaw was, like resting on my chest and face pressed up against the window, just in awe, like driving down there. And so like,
it's gorgeous.
And then I'm like, and then we've, done a couple other visits where we've actually seen more of Utah, and I'm like, I'm not sure which is my favorite state now. It's close between Wyoming and Utah for me.
Yeah, it truly is underrated and just so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, you talked about Utah and hunting and stuff like that, but I know you've been fortunate like us to be able to travel all over and do certain things. What animal, and I know, I think I know how you're going to answer this, and I might be wrong, just because of your affiliation with the foundation. What animal do you find the most fun to hunt?
Well, I think I bet you it's going to be different. My answer is going to be different than what you think. You're probably thinking I'm going to say mule deer, which I love. I mean, mule deer are just iconic. They're just, especially coming from a whitetail world, right, of Wisconsin. You get up on a big muley and it's just next level. They're so beautiful, and I love mule deer. And it's hard to say. It's probably one of the most common questions I get is, if you could only have one animal to hunt, what would it be? For me, it would probably be bears. And it's funny because
I got it. Sorry. You can't see the expression on his face and his body language. He was totally shocked. And that's not even what he was thinking either. Like, neither of what you just said is what he was thinking. So when you said bear,
okay, first let's hear what Art was going to think. What was your answer?
I was 100% thinking sheep, because I know you like those, and I know that you were and do a lot with the Wild Sheep Foundation. And so I thought, because of that, that you would be sheep.
You were wrong.
And that just floored me.
I wish I had the budget to be a sheep hunter.
Right.
That's part of it,
Absolutely.
But I was, just real quick on that, I was lucky enough to draw a sheep tag in Montana 4 years ago, I think. And it wasn't in the Missouri River breaks where most people really think of, monster sheep. It was in a unit that was kind of close to my house. It's the best unit for draw odds. And I think I had been putting in, like anything, part of it goes to most number of points, and then part of it goes to random draw. And I think I only had 10 or 12 points, but I drew a bighorn, Rocky Mountain bighorn sheep tag. And it truly was one of my most amazing hunts I've ever been on. We did it DIY. I went with my husband, John, and my cameraman, Heath. John wasn't actually with me. It took 17 days. It was a super hard hunt. The rams just were not in that unit. It's really thick timbered and hard to find them, but it was incredible. When I finally got up on my sheep that day and watched him tip over, it was truly one of the most amazing afternoons of my life. And to share that with Heath, my business partner, my cameraman, it was amazing. And after that, like, I was a member of the Wild Sheep Foundation before that, but it just made me fall in love with wild sheep. So that's why I work really close with Wild Sheep Foundation. Is they're a super fragile species, and it changed me. Like, it's funny, sometimes I say you have to hunt a species to fall in love with a species. And that was definitely the case for mountain goat and sheep for me, and moose and grizzly. And but it goes on and on. Yeah. Yeah, but when you get to hunt them and submerge yourself in their environment, and you learn more about them, and their rut activity and where they live and what they eat and what they do, and you just fall in love with them. And I do love sheep, but if I could only hunt one species, it would be bear, because I just love them so much. And I actually come from a place back in the day. I literally remember being in my 20s and being like, I don't know if I'd hunt a bear if I even had the opportunity. Then I move out west, and I start, my first bear was spot and stalk, and I didn't actually hunt baiting bears. I didn't do for probably 4 or 5 years after moving out west. But I love it. I love bear hunting so much because it's so different wherever you hunt. And I have hunted bears in, Montana, all over Alaska, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Idaho, and I run my own baits every year in Idaho. I spot and stalk almost every year in Montana and other states. And it's just such a fun hunt, because you never know what you're going to get. When you're spot and stalking out west, you're going to see all these other amazing animals during your hunt. You cover miles on end every day. And then flip side of that, baiting, where it's the most misunderstood, I think, form of hunting. Well, that and hound hunting. Because people think because you bait, they just come on in. They come waltzing on in. And it is so not the case, especially in the lower 48. It's to get a big, mature boar, a big, smart old bear to come in takes a lot. And I've just fallen in love with bear hunting the more and more and more I do it. I'm actually the Western contributor for Bear Hunting Magazine, because I just love it so much, every aspect of bear hunting. And so, yeah, I've taken 19 bears and still don't have enough.
Oh, fun. Good for you. Have you hunted bear in Wisconsin?
So kind of. And the kind of means for 2 days, I got to go up to northern Wisconsin this year with a friend of mine, Jeff Long, and hunt his buddy's place. Ben and his family have a huge dairy farm, and they get depredation tags.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're called that in Wisconsin, but it's the same concept, where crops are damaged so much by the bears in northern Wisconsin that they get these tags. So we got to go out. The weather was really bad. I never even saw a bear. Tracks everywhere, scat everywhere, but I just never saw. But my buddy Jeff, the night we were there with him, shot a giant Wisconsin bear. I can't even remember the weight right now. Like I said, I'm just getting off a head cold for 5 days. I'll have to go back and look in my Instagram, but it was a giant, one of the biggest bears I've ever walked up on. And it's just fatter than fat because it's been eating corn all these years,
Yeah.
And, but it was super fun. I hope to go back someday to get more time in the stand. It was kind of a hunt. We just did it the last minute. And like I said, it was only for a couple days. But I would like to go spend a couple weeks, in the stand in Wisconsin. Have you guys hunted bears in Wisconsin?
Yes.
We have. It's with the point system, every time you draw, you're like, geez, I hope I get one and get lucky, because I'm going to be an old lady by the time next time I draw a tag, like when you're thinking like 10 year, every 10 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've hunted, I think, twice in Wisconsin. I don't know if you had one more than I did or not.
Yeah, I've hunted 3 times.
But we've got a friend who deer hunts with us down here, but his home property is up in Florence County.
Okay.
So he wanted to kind of, play the host and, and invite us up to his place to bear hunt. And we didn't have any success there. I had a cool thing. I had, what's amazing about bear too is how quiet they come out of nowhere. Like they're so quiet. And, like you think you'd be able to see this like giant black animal coming through the woods, and you don't see them until they're right in front of you. You don't hear them.
Is so amazing.
You don't see them. It's like they're ghosts, just show up.
Yeah.
But we were, and we had a skunk, which, showed up just before we were going to get down. So that was a little bit interesting for a minute. But I'm sitting there, and this was my hunt, and Art was filming. And all of a sudden I look, and I'm like, bear. I see, something black coming from my right. And then I'm like, more bear. And here it was a sow with quadruplets.
Oh, quadruplets. I've never seen quadruplets.
Yeah, which our friend had some pictures of her, on that bait. So, but yeah, the little ones just come tumbling up the trail. And then, then they were all there, and just watching them kind of play and goof around at the bait before they wandered off.
Yeah, that is so cool. That's half the reason I love it. It's, of course, notching a tag is awesome, but with bear hunting, watching them, and I feel like in the last, how many years now? I've been 17 years. I have learned so much about their behavior and how they have such unique individual personalities. In fact, it kind of reminds me of, have you guys seen that movie with, the guy who gets eaten in Alaska? He goes to live with Timothy Treadwell. He goes to live with the grizzlies. And his whole premise is to teach people that grizzlies get a bad name and da-da-da. Well, it turns out the crabby grizzly ended up killing him and his girlfriend, horrifically, of course. I mean, it's so sad. But, yeah, it's true. They all have such unique, different personalities, both grizzlies and black bears. But every time I see a sow and cubs, it's so fun. We had a crazy encounter this year with a sow that we have a ton of history with. We call her, well, she's got a couple of nicknames, Cinnamon or Frosting. She's really cinnamon colored, really unique, beautifully colored. And, but she was obsessed with the frosting on our tree one year. And she had it all over her face. So we call her Frosting or Cinnamon, but we thought she had disappeared last year. And so we thought, that's probably a bummer. Maybe someone else shot her. Cause she was, for the previous 3 years or 2 or 3 years before that, we'd had really good encounters with her. We knew she was a sow. She had that classic sow face, real, rounded off badonkadonk. So we're like, definitely a sow. And, she didn't show up last year. So we were disappointed thinking someone else maybe shot her. And, of course it's legal to take a sow, but we try really hard not to. And she came in this year and she had 2-year-olds. So she just didn't come to the bait last year with her, newer cubs. And, but it was crazy how she came into that. So that they come, like you said, rolling down the trail, came into the bait, screwing around with each other and fighting over the bait. And then they'd climb up the trees. And it took her like 20 minutes to come in after they were here at the bait. And once she smelled us, she became, I would say irate. She was drooling and popping her jaws and doing the chainsaw growl, that chainsaw growl. And she stood up on this rock, kind of behind it. We could see her behind the trees, but there was still a lot of leaves on the trees. We got tons of footage of her, but it was kind of hard to see her too. But she paced back and forth, drooling and growling for over an hour. And, after a while, I'm like, could she be one of those crazy bears that would literally attack us? Which it's really rare, right? Everyone knows it's rare. But my gosh, in Colorado a couple years ago, a guy was ripped off his front porch in broad daylight and killed by a black bear in front of his neighbors. So like in the back of your mind, you're like, hey, we're probably going to climb down and she's probably going to run off. But what if she's one of those crazies? And she was just acting like, crazy on the rock. So by the time finally John and I were like, we need to climb down because we cannot wait till dark. Like what, I need to see what's going on here. So he slowly climbed down. He had his pistol out. I then climbed down, had mine out. But when he hit the ground, she didn't move. She didn't run off. She was still drooling and growling. And so then he just kind of kept aim on her. I climbed down. And when I hit the ground, maybe it was that we were both down there, she bailed off the back of the rock, and we just kind of waited for a second to see if she was going to come around, and she just must have gone down over the hill. But it was pretty intense. I was it was definitely that inner voice saying, this isn't the smartest thing. That kind of fight or flight in you, kind of goes off. But bears are so amazing. I've had just the most amazing wildlife encounters with bears that I've been really lucky to document over the years. One of the craziest videos we've ever had. We were filming. We rounded this corner. We were spot and stalking in Montana. We saw this big jet black bear kind of on the bottom of the mountain across from us, probably about 500 yards. Well, then as we're watching him, I can't remember if it was my cameraman or my buddy Paulie said, there's another bear at the top of the mountain. And it was a sow with a cub. And we all said out loud, ooh, watch this encounter, right? Because some people might not know that boars will often kill cubs because it forces that sow to go back into heat. And so we kind of sat down with our camera, got everything ready, and we're just kind of watching them to see what they would do. Well, she was probably 200 yards away from him, and she must have smelled him. She barked, and the cub ran off the opposite direction. She ran down the hill. Have you ever heard the saying that bears can't run downhill fast? That's complete BS. That's complete BS. She ran down this mountainside, climbing over logs like a speed rocket, and chased that black bear up to the top of a lodge pole, and they were up to the top, swaying back and forth. And in the next half hour, she swiped at his butt, was biting all the branches off. She was trying to display dominance to this bear. She would crawl all the way back down to the tree, and then she'd chase him back all the way up. He never moved, right? He stayed at the top. She'd go back up and down the tree 5 or 6 different times. It was so crazy. Even Joe Rogan featured that video clip on his podcast and talked about it and how amazingly fast they are for such big, huge animals. You talked about being quiet, which they totally are because of their padded feet, but they are so fast for being these, 300-400 pound fat animals. They're really quick.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, there's other things that I like to hunt, but there's, if it didn't take so long to draw tags here, I've been fortunate enough, I've shot 9 bears, a couple here in Wisconsin, but I also, guided, some youth, some cancer survivors or, some special needs kids, and, used to take them up on some bear hunts. And, the one thing about baiting that I don't think people understand either is because they think, like you said, it gets a bad name, but
it's just automatic. People think that.
Yeah, but
so
I mean,
automatic.
not the automatic on it, but when that bear comes in, people that, understand bears and know bears, we can now look at that bear and say, well, is it a sow? Is it a boar? Is it, does it have cubs? Because here in Wisconsin, you can't shoot a sow with cubs.
Right.
Is it a really young bear or is it a mature bear? So that's one thing at baiting. When that bear comes in, it also helps you with decisions on, do you even want to shoot it or not, or try to shoot it because of its age or because of its, again, is it a boar or a sow or does it have cubs? And it helps
you
do
be
that.
Selective.
You have more time. You feel like you've got some time.
Where other places, sometimes you don't have that opportunity, on some spot and stalks, maybe because she heard something, she ran the cubs off and all of a sudden now you're going, uh-oh, now what, and you're in a conversation with, the conservation wardens. And so there's a lot of things that, because of
really,
baiting,
they're really, really hard to judge from a distance.
Bears are I've heard it so many times, just like you, I'm sure, is guiding people go, and I just shot a 500-pound bear, and they get up to it and it's a 150-pounder.
Right. Yeah, they're super hard to judge. And you're right. Baiting lets you be super selective, lets you take the time, determine sex, determine weight, determine age, do they have cubs? Is it a dry old sow? And oftentimes you can determine a lot of that with trail camera footage, whereas spot and stalk, you're not getting trail camera footage.
Right.
You're literally out there putting on the miles. I love both methods. I've hunted with hounds too as well. super fun. Definitely, once that bear is either cliffed out or in the tree, you get that selective option again to be, is this a bear we want to take? But yeah, I love it all. It's definitely one of my favorites. Not that I don't love other species, almost as much, but if I only had to choose, there's just so much opportunity, especially out west. There's a lot of states that have over-the-counter tags, and so it's a hunt that has plenty of opportunity.
Right, and I do, I'm fortunate too because I do a lot of photography work for different magazines and different things, and so I used to when my buddy lived up north. I did a lot of bear photography. And so I would sit on the ground with him, 10, 15 yards and watch him come in and do photos. And like you said, each bear had its own attitude. And I remember one day this bear come in, a really good boar, and he starts coming into the bait, and I'm watching him. And I take a couple pictures, and he heard the shutter click, and he stopped. And he's staring at me. And I'm thinking, okay, well, most of the bears didn't care. They just go back to eating whatever. This one, he started getting a little crabby. And I'm thinking, okay, and I didn't have a gun on me or anything. So I sent a text to my buddy who owned the place. And I said, hey, man, I got kind of an ornery one back here. I said, I think I need to, get out. Can you bring the four-wheeler out around and run this bear? And I said, how long are you going to be? Because I said, I got about 5 minutes, I think, before this bear decides he's going to come over here and figure out what I am, and he might not like it. He says, I'm on my way. He says, I'm in the garage now. So pretty soon I hear him because he lived literally 300 yards, or not even. A lot of times you could sit in his house and look at the bears back there, through binoculars. So he jumped on that four-wheeler, and he come back around, and all of a sudden that bear kind of stopped, stood up, and that thing took off after that four-wheeler. And
really?
I was like, okay. As soon as I saw that bear go by me that way, I took off and, snuck around the back way and up the valley towards his house. And he jumped off the four-wheeler and let the four-wheeler keep rolling. And, I mean, that bear hit that four-wheeler and knocked that four-wheeler over, and he went back to his house, and he goes, man, that thing's kind of crabby. I'm like, you think? And that was the only real encounter that we had with a crabby bear there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not that common. I mean, mostly they're going to get, if you holler or you stand up and you, hey bear, they're going to turn and run.
Oh, yeah.
But every once in a while, we've had a crabby bear like that too on bait. And, normally Cinnamon, she was an older sow, so she'd come in real skittish. But man, when she came in this year with her cubs, she was not having it. And in the back of my mind, I was like, ooh, could she be one of those types that, yeah, it's going to defend her cubs till, look, I mean, and like I was talking about that other sow chasing that other bear up the tree a couple of years ago, she went to extreme lengths to protect her cub. Her cub wasn't anywhere near, like 200 yards away when she first spotted that boar. And then she chased him for a half hour up and down the tree. And you never know, you can meet a ferocious sow or boar and it just be that particular crabby one. So I think it's smart to always keep that in the back of your mind that, odds are this bear's going to run when I make some noise or get up or, come at him with a car or a truck or a four-wheeler, but you never know. There's crabby ones out there every now and then.
Yeah. I know. It seems like the ones that Art and this landowner, his name is Jim, the ones that he would get at the baits, because he just loved watching bears, so he would watch him out his backyard. And it seemed to be the ones that really kind of were maybe more problematic at the bait were like the ones that were young, like they had, left their mom or been kicked off the mom.
Yeah, teenagers.
They were like the problem ones.
For sure.
At the bait.
That's actually very common out west. When you've got a problematic mountain lion that's like, walking around the schools, which happens. I was sitting in my hairstylist one day, and she had an old school answering machine, and the answering machine clicked on, and it said, "This is I can't remember. This is, Lincoln Elementary School, letting all the parents know to please come inside to pick up your children. There has been a mountain lion spotted circling the playground.
Oh,
So
good grief.
it can happen every now and then where you get a bear in town or a mountain lion in town, and it's typically, not always, but typically a teenager, a very hungry,
right.
Hasn't learned quite how to hunt that well. But yeah, I would usually those problematic bears are those just kicked off or teenagers. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, speaking of mountain lions, and when I thought about this when you were talking about the sheep, I recently read where California is allowing, sounds like just the conservation wardens to shoot mountain lions that are killing the sheep.
Oh, I did not see that. Mountain lion hunting has been banned in Colorado for years, and even to the effect of let's say you live in California and you came to Utah and you got a mountain lion, you can't even take that mountain lion back over state lines to California.
Are you serious?
No, you can't. You cannot take mountain lion hide, any part of the hide, the skull, anything back into California. And so, there's been problematic mountain lion stories, the last 10 years, like crazy, where and it's very rare that there's a fatality, but it does happen. Mm-hmm. There was a fatality actually in Missoula back in the 80s where a kid was killed on his bicycle. But there's a lot of mountain biker stories where they've been knocked off their bikes or, severely injured by mountain lion in California because they're just like any predator. Their numbers need to be managed. Mm-hmm. They need to be managed in California now more than ever. I'm sure someday down the road they're going to reinstitute a hunting season, or if they don't do that, they're just going to have trappers and hunters, take the numbers out.
Yeah.
But no, I didn't see that, but that's interesting.
It was really recent, so it's just kind of like step one, but they were going at it from the, all the work that's been done to reintroduce sheep and get the sheep populations established. Yeah. And then they have, mountain lions like wiping out, pockets of sheep.
Yeah. No, it's a huge problem. It's a huge problem with the sheep. They're already a very fragile species. They can contract what's essentially like a pneumonia very easily from domesticated sheep. And people who may not live out west might not know, a lot of domesticated sheep roam on public land up in the mountains. Mm-hmm. And like herders will have their herds up on, mountains across the state. And if the wild sheep come in contact with those, often they can transmit a pneumonia type. And once they have it, it can literally knock out an entire herd of sheep. It's pretty scary. Sheep are pretty fragile in that way. And then they also have to put up with bears and mountain lions, and in states that have them, wolves can do damage on the sheep. I know that the unit that I got my ram in had a hunt the next year, but I believe then 2 years ago it was closed for sheep because there just weren't enough. There's not enough recruitment. There weren't enough lambs. When the biologists go out and do their counts, there weren't enough lambs coming up. And so we saw mountain lion tracks and wolf tracks. We actually saw wolves on my hunt. There's so many predators, and it's a really steep terrain, tough unit to hunt with hounds. And so there's a lot of houndsmen who don't want to hunt that area because of the wolves, because often the wolves will kill the hounds when they're at the tree. Yeah. And so, it's just a complex issue, predator issue, and it can have a ripple effect when there's too many mountain lions on the deer, the wild sheep, the elk, other species.
Mm-hmm.
I think we actually, talking about that with wolves and the houndsmen, I think we had 9. It was either 8 or 9 dogs just this year for bear season that were killed by wolves in northern Wisconsin.
I saw that. Yeah. I saw that article. Yeah. That is so sad. I've had friends who've lost hounds in Montana where they get to the tree and they're dead from wolves. And it's hard. It's hard. It's something that you have to deal with when you live in states with wolves. But it's a tough thing for houndsmen, that's for sure.
Well, it sounds like we're one step closer to maybe having another wolf season here in Wisconsin, and
I saw that.
Possibly reduce the numbers.
It's just insane what a political issue it's become. It needs to be back to the states for management. It's that simple, and it's nothing to do with the science behind it. It's nothing to do with the biology. It's all political. It's the same thing with the grizzlies out west. There's areas in Montana I won't archery hunt anymore because there's just too many bears. It's not worth it for me anymore to take that chance. And yeah, it's sad, but I saw that it's one step closer going to the House, and it hopefully passes, and each state can go back into deciding what the quota is and to be able to manage them.
That'd be awesome. So
Yep.
So you do a lot of Western hunting. What is, for the listeners out there too, because you hear all kinds of it, but you have been fortunate, and I've watched a lot of your shows to see you harvest a lot of big game animals. What is your go-to caliber for your rifle hunts out west?
I have shot almost everything with either a 28 Nosler or a 300 Winchester Short Mag. Those are my two favorites. Everything I've shot in the last 8 years, almost everything, big game, I'm talking bear, elk, has been with my 28 Nosler. I love that round. I love that rifle. The rifle is actually built by Nosler. Her name is Jolene because she's going to take your man. You got to name your gun.
Oh, absolutely.
But I years back I hunted with my first big caliber rifle out west was a 300 Win Mag, Short Mag, and I love that gun. That was a gun built by GA Precision, and that's just a smoker. In fact, I just used that gun on my caribou hunt because you cannot use suppressors in Northwest Territories, and I didn't want to shoot and change. My 28 is so dialed in. I didn't want to mess with it and get a new turret for my 28. So I just used my 30 that's never had a suppressor. Worked great, one shot kill, and love that round as well. But 28 Nosler, that's probably my favorite gun. I do have a 6.5 Creed that I just had Nosler build me last year. That's perfect for deer and antelope. It's nice. It's lightweight. It's such a fast round. Love it for antelope and whitetail. But if I'm going like elk and bear, 28 Nosler is my favorite. I did use a 30 Nosler on my grizzly, full transparency. I shot a grizz 2 years ago in Alaska, and we just took one gun between my husband and I. He really wanted to take the 30 Nosler, so we took that. It's obviously a little bit more power behind it for a grizzly, which are just incredibly strong animals. And it worked really well. His was at 38 or 36 yards. So, anything would have done at that point. Mine was 300 yards, but yeah. But in general, my go-to is definitely the 28 Nosler.
Nice. And, like you said with the 6.5 Creedmoor and stuff, that gun, it kind of cracks me up, the people that, try to badmouth it and do this and that. Yep. And a lot of it comes down to, correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I truly believe that a lot of it comes down to the bullet choice on the animal choice. So it's, a lot of these guys are shooting, maybe they're shooting the 6.5 Creedmoor, but they're shooting the 6.5 long range, accurate bullets out of it instead of shooting a bullet that is built for a thin-skinned animal like a white-tailed deer. So they aren't getting, they're not getting that expansion. It's just going through them, poking a little hole, and the deer runs off and dies somewhere else. And I lost it because it's kind of like the old broadhead thing. My broadhead lost that deer. No, if you went to shot it in the butt, so
I agree with you. I think that, first of all, if you put a question out there, you're going to get, out of 100 people, 100 different answers, right? I mean, you cannot get people to all agree if the sky is blue or not. You really can't. I do agree with you. It definitely, you've got to think about bullet choice. You've got to think about species. You've got to think about, like, how far are you going to be shooting? You know, I think that has a lot to do with it. That might not be people maybe who aren't shooting long range. Like, I know when I sat in the trees in Wisconsin all those years, I never had a shot over 150 yards. You can't see past that.
Right.
Like where we hunted, it was just thick timber. You really couldn't see past that. Whereas out west, I mean, you can literally shoot as far as you feel confident in. Now, it also comes down to ethics. Like, you'll also get a lot of different answers on that of what people think is ethical or not. I personally have been through a lot of long range training. I know that I am very confident under 600 yards. I don't like to shoot over 500 yards because we're on film, right? It's way far out there. You want to be able to film the animal. That's part of what I do. You want to be able to get, good footage of the animal. Also, after that, there's a lot of things that can vary. The winds can vary. They can vary from what they're doing at your shooting point to what they're doing across the canyon, but I know shooters who are just incredible. A lot of them are former SF dudes who are just amazing shots. They're plinging that steel plate that's only the size of a dinner plate at 1,500 yards. Like, they're an incredible shots. Now, should you be shooting at an animal that far? That's not really for me to say. For me personally, I like to keep it under 500 yards. But the weapons today, they can reach a lot farther than they've ever been, before. Ballistics have changed and the tools have changed. Whether you're using a Kestrel, which is going to give you accurate information right there. It's going to give you accurate winds, temperature, elevation. It's going to tell you, you got your data all plugged in, but it's going to give you those variables as close as it can to your situation. Guys 30 years ago, they weren't taking Kestrels out into the mountains, So, but back to your thing of what's the best round, you're never going to get everybody to agree on that. But 6.5 does get a ton of backlash. I think it's just an easy round to make fun of people about. It came out, it's a fairly newer round in the history of guns, but I love it. The reason I wanted Nosler to build me one is I went on a hunt with a bunch of the guys from Nosler in Texas. We were actually using a new copper bullet that they were coming out with. This was, I think, 3 years ago now. And none of us flew with guns. We were all using Nosler guns on site in Texas. And I shot a whitetail. I think it was, 240 yards, not that far. And it just crumbled in its tracks. You can go and watch the episode, and it's just boom in its tracks down. So I'm like, ooh, this is a nice lightweight rifle. It's not huge. Sometimes when I take my 28, it's such a long barreled, and then you've got the suppressor on it. It's such a huge gun for a tree stand, that it's not that easy to maneuver around. This is a gun that's best used for being in the prone position, taking far shots. And that 6.5 Creed is such a perfect gun for the tree stand. It's awesome. It's shorter barreled, lightweight, awesome gun. I used it for antelope this year. I used it for whitetail in Texas and in Wisconsin years back. So I like it. People can give it crap all I want. I don't even wear my hair in a man bun when I shoot it.
I'm having a 6.5 PRC built right now for antelope next year, so I'm really looking forward to that gun.
Heck yeah, that's a really popular round out here. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, suppressed, of course. Now that I've been shooting suppressed guns, I just can't shoot non-suppressed.
Oh, it's so hard. This year I had to get behind the 300 again without, and I love that gun. It's just a beast of a gun. It's super heavy, but it doesn't kick that much. But dang, it is just, once you shoot suppressed, you'll never go back.
Yeah.
Right.
But unfortunately, there's states like Illinois and provinces like Northwest Territories that don't let you shoot with cans on. So
once again, it's a political thing, I believe. So
it is. It totally is. Yeah. Way to go, Illinois. I mean, literally the worst gun crime, isn't it? The worst gun crime. That might not be true, but I know it's one of the worst, especially if you add in Chicago. So it is political, unfortunately, and it's so misunderstood too. People who don't know guns making decisions on guns and ammo and suppressors. And suppressors, it's still loud. It's not like the movies where it's pew, pew, pew. It's still loud, but it's just safer for your ears. It's safer for the animals. A lot of times if you're shooting an animal and there's other animals nearby, they don't even know what happened. They don't run off. Often the animal you hit doesn't run off, which is nicer in terms of the meat. And it's just nicer all the way around. But I don't know. Hopefully we'll get there too, as well as have every state allow legal suppression.
Yeah, well, January 1, we're one step closer to that. At least they're getting rid of the tax stamp. So
Yep. And some people might not know. Right now, there's a lot of those having a brain freeze here. The company where you walk into your FFL and you order your suppressor, a lot of companies are offering $200 cash back right now because they know the system's going to get so clogged up once January 1st rolls around and people don't have to pay that $200 tax stamp, that they're offering that back right now. And so if people are interested, you've still got a couple weeks left. If you're interested in getting a suppressor, check into it because the company you're buying that suppressor for might be offering cashback deals right now.
Yeah, like the company that we deal with on our suppressors right here in Wisconsin at Griffin Armament, they have a deferred program, so you can actually go online and
order them now,
but defer everything to next year, and so that way you don't have to do that. Yep.
Exactly.
So, which is nice, but I mean, so there's a lot of different things out there, and like I said, I know you were here. You're talking about shooting long range, and there's a lot of options out there for people to go out and find places to do that. And like you said, just because that weapon is capable of 1,500 yards, whatever, it doesn't mean we are.
Exactly.
When the animal, certain things might move. And I do a lot of long range stuff, so I know my capabilities. But again, that is going to change with how that animal, what that does. It's no different than archery. Just because your bow, your bow might be capable of 100 yards. Does that mean you are?
Right, exactly.
And
a lot can happen in that. If you watch a shooter at 100 yards and he releases that arrow and you count 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, point, whatever that is, there's a lot that can happen. The animal can easily turn. That wind can, switch up. There's a lot that can go wrong in 100 yards. And just because you can do it at a target and your bow is capable at it, is it ethical? I mean, it's not for me to judge, but I don't shoot over 50 yards. That's kind of my point. Plus, I don't pull that much either. But but again, you'll get every opinion under the sun, and I can do this and I can do that. Well, you can. Is it ethical on the animal? That's what's debatable.
Right. And a lot can happen even in 20 to 25 yards. I mean, there's stuff that you don't notice with the naked eye, but because we're filming it, you can watch it later, frame by frame, and you see things,
it's amazing
that you
how
never
many. Yeah, it's amazing how much whitetail and antelope duck. Like, it is truly amazing. And unless you've seen it on film, you can also, I've had it happen to me. I've caught it on film 2 or 3 different times of where I'm aiming and how much you line up the back of that animal and frame by frame, you show how much that animal drops. Even if, like you said, they're at 25, 30 yards, it's amazing how much a whitetail and antelope are notorious for it, how quick their reflexes are and how much they can move from hearing that shot.
Yeah. And you just think of all the hunter, obviously most of the hunters aren't filming. I mean, a lot of people do just for fun and self-film their own stuff. But, like I was talking about, people blaming the broadhead or whatever. Maybe you're blaming your 6.5, but the archery stuff, how many times people don't really know where they hit the animal because the animal moved because they're so fast. They might have aimed where they needed to, and it might have been headed that way, but the animal just moved, so fast that, the shot really wasn't as good as you think it was.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell us, we've talked about, the filming and things like that. Kind of tell us a little bit about, your show, because I know about it. If there's any listeners out there that don't, because I know that, you base it a lot around conservation and what's right and stuff. So, what got you into it, and how did you evolve to where you're at?
So back it up way to the very beginning of Skullbound. I met my ex-producer. He lived in Montana. He was already producing a different hunting show, and I was in Wisconsin, and we started kind of long distance dating. He said, why don't you come out to Montana? Obviously fell in love with Montana. Montana is such a beautiful state. And we threw the idea around of doing a solo female hosted show, because at that time, this is 16, almost 17 years ago, there weren't very many of them. And so we started filming a bunch of hunts, some whitetail, turkey, went to Africa, put a pilot together, called it Skullbound because I'm a skull artist that I paint and bead skulls. Mostly now just for my conservation groups to raise money. I used to do it a lot for customers, but really right now I only do them for my conservation groups and sometimes a veteran cause. But we called it Skullbound because of that. I've often had people kind of look at me and tilt their head funny and be like, so you hunt skulls? Like, no, it's called that because I'm a skull artist. But when we were kind of formulating the show, I really wanted to show what hunting was to me. And to me, it's so much more than notching a tag. And let's not be real. We all love notching a tag, of course. But to me, it's just getting out in nature and spending time with people I love and the conservation side of it. My dad got me into the conservation side at a young age. He would let me go to his Ducks Unlimited banquets, Pheasants Forever banquets in Wisconsin. And, really kind of taught me to give back. And these groups are out there fighting for not only our right to hunt and our rules and regulations, but they're also, fighting for these species, specific species. And so when we formulated Skullbound, I really wanted to tell the conservation message. I thought that was kind of missed on a lot of hunting shows. So we started incorporating skull stories of, me beating up skulls or painting skulls and donating back to conservation. Or we also had a lot of conservation minutes within the show that are just 60-second pieces about what the conservation groups are doing. And so we started off strong on the conservation side of things. I don't do conservation minutes anymore, but what I do now is I do a lot of conservation pieces for social media. That's kind of where that evolved into. But anyway, Skullbound was on Sportsman's Channel for 9 years. And then I dabbled a little bit with digital. It was kind of, for me, 7 years ago, my partners were kind of pushing me towards going digital and away from network TV. It's when you're on network TV, people have to see it, right? And then they might catch a rerun 3 months later. But then if you missed it, you missed it. It's pretty much gone. Whereas on digital, whether you're YouTube, Carbon TV, or other platforms, you can watch any show whenever you want, and then you can send it to people, send links on your phone, and it's just it can get just as many views as network TV now. And so I dabbled with the idea of doing maybe YouTube or maybe Carbon, and at that same time, a good friend of mine, Julie McQueen, was president of just became president of Carbon TV. So I'm like, let's do Carbon. So we went all in on just Carbon TV. 7 seasons ago. We called it Chronicles because the first season we just loaded up my favorite pieces from 9 years of Skullbound, and we called it Skullbound Chronicles. And now it's called Skullbound Chronicles. But from that moment on, in the last 7 seasons, it's Skullbound Chronicles. But you can actually, I'm lumping it all in under Skullbound now, and I'm going to be releasing a new channel on YouTube within the next month or two, where it's going to have everything, all 16 years worth of episodes, as well as some shorts and how-to videos. So right now, anything that's new coming out is on Skullbound Chronicles on Carbon TV, and it will be on the new YouTube channel. And then anything that's I have a fast channel called Skullbound. That's all 16 years worth. That fast channel's on 31 other networks. That kind of just has everything rotating, but you don't get to pick and choose. I think the digital platform of pick and choosing what you want to watch is the way to go. if you're sitting down with your kids and you want to watch an elk episode, there's plenty of elk episodes to choose from. Or maybe you want to show your kids some bear hunting. Lots of bear hunts you can choose from. Two of my favorite shows we ever did was my grizzly hunt. And that's part 1 and part 2 of our grizzly hunt on last season 6 of Skullbound Chronicles. I think that sitting down and whether you're on the couch or you're on a work break, you can get a Carbon TV on your phone, pick the episodes that you want to watch. I really think that's the way to go. And it's been a super fun run. I was actually only going to do my show for a few years, which is really funny because the average TV show is like 3-4 years. And I thought, we'll do it for 3-4 years and then find out something else to do. And it's just the train keeps running down the tracks at full speed. And so even though I have a new producer, once my ex and I broke up, I took over the show. Keith Helgert, H2O Productions, is my producer and my cameraman. We're basically a 3-man band between my husband, who films for me now, and Heath and I. And the train's still going on the tracks, so we might as well do it. I have the best partners under the sun. Some of my partners have literally been there from day one. For 16 years, I've been with Vortex, Nosler, Onyx, a bunch of other ones too that I'm not thinking of right now. But it's just been such a blessing that I honestly didn't know it would be going this far.
Mm-hmm.
Well, since we work with Vortex too, maybe we could talk to the boss next year when you're out here, and we could all go down to the outdoor long range and let a few of them fly while you're here.
That would be so much fun. Yeah, Vortex is amazing. They're literally such an incredible company. They've got great optics, which is obviously number one, right? It's super easy to rep a company where you love their products.
Right.
From, their binos to their spotting scopes, rangefinders, you name it. But the people behind the company are amazing. I love them so much. I'm so proud to be with Vortex, and I'm, like I said, going on my 16th year with them, and they've been around since day one, and they're just the greatest. Graham Cronin is my guy there, and he's just the nicest, sweetest guy. So I love them. I would love to go to their long range with them. I've not been to the long range there. I have taken a couple of different pistol classes there, and people might not know that they have this amazing indoor range. And the coaches there, or the teachers who teach the pistol classes, are either former police officers, former military. They're so good. Whether you're brand new at a pistol or you've got a lot of experience, and even if I know they do a lot of training for people who do pistol competition. They're just great. They're patient. They're really knowledgeable. There's no egos in there. And it's really awesome. If you get a chance to go by the Vortex headquarters, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then we took, I had Michelle, one of our team members, and her daughter, and Brad, took them down last summer to the long range class and had them go through that. Which was pretty cool, because by the time we were done with that long range class, and I'd been there and I shot with those guys because I've known those guys. I mean, we've been with them probably 15, 16 years also. And being only 15 minutes from there, it's
yeah.
So I know
so
the guys.
nice.
Yeah, I know the guys pretty well, and so if I have issues or whatever, but we took them down to that outdoor range, and by the time we were done, we had, I think at the time, Avery, who went with, she was 11, I think, at the time, and they had her ping medal at 1,040 by the end of the day.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is so great.
So
yeah, it
that's
is
fun
such
to
a
watch.
confidence builder.
Yeah.
I can't say enough things about them. That's so great. And it's so great, even if you're not in an environment where you're shooting that far, it's still awesome to take a long range class, to learn the ballistics of it all, to just learn, what your gun is capable of, what different guns can do, the extenuating circumstances that can come up on a hunt, like we talked about, whether angle and wind and, temperature and, all that kind of stuff. I've taken some classes in Montana. I was just out in Texas with the Women Hunt Group. This is so cool. I got to tell you about this really quick. So the Wild Sheep Foundation They have a group underneath them called Women Hunt, and it was founded by Renee Thornton. And it is a scholarship-based program where every year they give out 12 scholarships to women who want to learn how to hunt. And they get down to Texas, and they have 4 days of intense training in Texas. And of these 12 girls, most of them had never even been behind a rifle. They'd never even picked up a rifle. A couple of them had done a hunt before, but most of them had not even shot a gun before. And they learn, from the very beginning, obviously gun safety. They learn conservation they learn 7 principles of North American conservation. They end up learning they go on a hunt. They learn how to field dress. They learn how to quarter their meat off the bones. I mean, they learn it all in 4 days. It is so amazing. All 12 women actually tagged out this year too, which was incredible. And I got to follow along with them through the instruction as well as on hunts with some of them. And it was just so cool. I wanted to go along so I could film it and talk and show this program. I mean, obviously the goal would be to make this program even bigger than for only 12 scholarships, maybe have it more than once a year. But the FTW Ranch in Texas puts on this program. It was just incredible to see the confidence that these women gained in the 4 days of learning their weapon and learning, like, wow, I could do this, and then they field dress their own animals. They deboned the meat. They all got to take the meat home in coolers at the end of the trip. It was just amazing. It's going to be a really cool episode. I think I'm going to have it come out in April of this year. But those back to the long range classes are just so beneficial for not only learning the skills, but for confidence for people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's so important. What a great program.
Yeah, it's amazing.
So, yeah, there's there's a lot of different things out there like that for not only women but kids. And I tell people all the time, any way that you can, help get people involved, do it. Do whatever you can to promote the sport and get somebody involved.
Well, we need everyone we don't need everyone to pick up guns, right? We don't need everyone to shoot. We don't need everyone to hunt. We need everyone to understand the importance. And like, I have a lot of non-hunting friends. I really do still, which is crazy. But they understand that we have wildlife because we hunt wildlife. That, hunting pays for wildlife management in every single state in this country. And that's, I feel like, such a huge message that all we hunters need to explain to our non-hunting social media and our non-hunting family and friends is that, hunting is, first of all, the most, in my opinion, for wild animals, it's the most ethical, clean way to die. Mother Nature is not nice. No. It is a cruel way to die of starvation, disease, harsh winters. And hunting is, in my opinion, the most clean, ethical way for an animal to die. And not only that, we then are sustaining our lives from that meat, or we're helping sustain the ungulate population by hunting predators, whether you eat them or not. Personally, I love bear meat. I love mountain lion meat. I'm not going to eat a wolf, and I'm not going to eat a coyote, but we have to hunt them and manage them because we eat what they eat, right? But if people could just understand that guns aren't the enemy. Guns aren't what's bad. It goes back into, mental illness. When there's crime and there's drugs involved, the gun gets blamed so much. But when you have an understanding of guns and, really what the shooting world is like and the hunting world is like, I just think every person needs to have that awareness brought to them. It's a huge thing for me. Like you said, the more kids we can get involved, the more women. And why I say women specifically isn't because, why I think we all need all women. I wish I could share my passion with everyone. But when women in a family hunt, the kids are going to hunt. When the dad hunts, it's like 50%. But when the mom hunts in a family, the kids are going to hunt too. And that's why I think it's super important to get women involved. But anyone involved who's not had that opportunity to get out and shoot or get out and hunt, at least if given the opportunity, that they're going to see what it's all about, see that mainstream media paints a picture that is false and untrue, and then hopefully at least, whether they get into it or not, understand the fact that this is America. We have a right to protect ourselves. We have a right to defend ourselves, and we have a right to hunt and fish.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We are the stewards of the land.
We are. We really are. What do the anti-hunting groups do? I can answer that. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. They do ridiculous. They, first of all, have, a lot of their money. If you look into groups like PETA, or the worst one of it all is the Humane Society of the United States, the HSUS. Look into them and look to where their money goes. It doesn't go towards helping animals like people think. It really doesn't. Now, I'm all supportive of local Humane Society chapters, of course, but I'm talking about the HSUS. They are literally the biggest anti-hunting group out there. They raise millions of dollars every year from people who are just ignorant and don't look into the fact that they don't do anything for animals. They might instate ridiculous court cases every now and then to try to stop hunting or try to stop dogs from being involved in hunting. But that's all they do. They don't do anything. They are not stewards of the land like we hunters are. And it's I just think it's so misunderstood. People do not understand that hunters are the ones paying for wildlife management, that we have more animals in this country and on the planet because of hunting. And it's just a hard concept for people to understand unless they've learned about the Pittman-Robertson Act, or if they've learned about how each state's wildlife agency is funded mainly by hunters and anglers.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Jana,
look at us solving the world's problems.
Yeah, look at us. I know we get that
Yeah.
happens a lot. We get pretty deep once in a while. We're passionate.
Yeah.
Right? We're
Yeah.
passionate about these topics.
Exactly.
Jana, is there anything that you really wanted to talk about today that we haven't hit on?
Obviously, my biggest message is for people is the message of, like we just talked about, right? For in hopes that maybe someone sees the show or sees my social media that isn't a hunter and can learn from that hunting really truly is the most ethical, moral way to manage our wildlife in this country. I think it's the most organic, healthy meat on the planet. But other than what we've already talked about, I would like to touch base on the fact of getting people out there like you guys do. Whether it's a kid any kid or someone with a terminal illness, or my passion in the last 16 years has been veterans. I've been really blessed to meet some amazing veterans, and I try to take at least one or two out every year that maybe need a little help to get into the backcountry. I've done a ton of amputee hunts with single, double, even triple amputees who've been out on hardcore Western elk hunts with me. And when they get up on their animal and realize that they can do it, they can do this, they can get back into the mountains or back into the woods. It's just life-changing. It really is. And not only that, I think we need to, my platform of Skullbound is my way of sharing people's stories. And the more we can share of these veteran stories, the more I think the more patriotism it creates. I didn't grow up in a family of veterans. I really didn't have many relatives who were vets. And so I didn't understand what our veterans go through until I started to share campfires or share hunting camp with these guys. And their stories are remarkable. And I just think that I do think times are changing, and we're now back on track of appreciating our veterans more than in the previous administration. I'll just put it like that.
Amen.
And I feel like if we can help these men and women in any way we can, whether it's to get them on, backcountry adventures or fishing trips or whatever, it helps just spread their stories of what the men and women go through to serve our country. If you go into Skullbound Chronicles on Carbon TV, season 4 is all of my favorite veteran hunts put together in one huge season. I think there's 13 episodes up on that season. And they're just super fun episodes. Watch them with your kids. I want kids to watch them because I want the kids to understand what our men and women of the military go through as well. And that we owe them so much more than they're getting paid. We owe them good healthcare service. We owe them, better, longer holidays. We owe them our appreciation. We just owe them so much more than I think they get. And that's something that's been near and dear to my heart. But it's been a super fun conversation with you guys. We'll have to do it again. I love what you're about too, and your passion and your mission for getting the messaging out there of what hunters truly are. And that's stewards of the land, like you mentioned. It's super important. And so it's been a fun chat. Sorry if I've dominated it too much.
Oh no, we get to listen to each other all the time. We want to hear from we want our guests to do most of the talking. So we sure appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. And let's definitely do it again, and maybe get together sometime when you're out here or when we're out there.
Yeah, I'll definitely hit you up. I'm going to be back there this summer sometime. Not sure when. I'll be back in the summer in Wisconsin, and be fun to get together. Yeah, we'll go to the range together, or even just go out for cheese curds would work for me.
Yeah.
There you go. Hopefully I'm able to eat a bunch of them again. I tried some the other day, but they were still a little sore, but by then I better be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope so.
Right.
Well, good. Well, thanks again, and to everyone out there, get out there, get others out there with you, spread the message and the good that we do as conservationists, and own the season.
Follow Own the Season Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening.
Check back weekly for new episodes.